I don't even care if the stitches show through because I like the stitching showing through. It gives a character.
With every stitch, Karyn Jarvis brings one of her vintage critters to life. These characters are made of mohair, which is made from Angora goat hair or viscose to give them an aged look.
What I really like about the viscose is that it ages really nice. It ages like it just goes all like it's been around for 100 years sort of look, right? What they are, what the mohair critters are, I call them critters because I don't just make bears. Most people make teddy bears out of the mohair, right? And so I make them in the traditional way, except that I got bored with just bears, so I started making like dogs and cats and giraffes and elephants and whatever I felt like making. It's stuffed with excelsior, which is what they used to do with the old teddy bears, and I try to stay very close to vintage.
Jarvis gets most of her materials from Germany, but has gathered vintage pieces over time, such as buttons or thread, that add to the mature look of the critters. This style of bear became popular in 1902 after a cartoon appeared with Theodore Roosevelt not shooting a bear, creating the name teddy bears. The critters have blown up on Jarvis's online Etsy shop and have been sent to homes around the world. Jarvis says she believes it's because they're not something you'd find in a store.
I try to make them look like they're real. Like I try to give them life. Like this little guy here, you look into his eyes and you almost think that he's going to start barking or something. I give him wobble heads. And the reason I do that, when they're vintage, they start falling apart, right? And then I give them the little squishy bodies and stuff like that too. And sometimes I'll purposely do a disc, like because they're jointed, right, with discs. I'll do it loose on purpose because I want people to feel, especially people my age, right, that, oh wow, this reminds me of my childhood.
The artist says she's been making these critters for about 30 years.
We had very little when we grew up. I was raised by my mom. My mom worked 3 jobs to take care of us, and so we were bored all the time, right? So I remember when I was a little girl, I was probably about 9. We didn't have a sewing machine or anything like that, right? And so I started, had this little mouse that I called Susie, and she was stuffed with straw. I would take out pins, stick pins, and Kleenex. I had a Kleenex box, and I would pin the clothes on her so that I pin it this way, this way, this way, this way, right? Until I pinned that poor thing so much that she fell apart. I always loved to, create.
Jarvis designed children's clothing in the 80s, which may have sparked her interest in not only creating clothing for the critters, but also designing fashions for Blythe and Tanku dolls.
When I was on Etsy, I kept seeing, I've just been doing this for about 2 years now, the Blythe doll, clothing, but I kept seeing these dolls with these big heads showing up. I'm like, wow, what's this all about? So I started investigating, and it's like, wow, is that ever cool? So I started making little silk dresses and stuff for them, and I dye all my own silk, so they're all different colors, and I try to make them look very vintage.
Jarvis says she draws inspiration for her work from storybooks to vintage postcards. Some of the critters have even been custom designs of buyers' pets. The artist adds she's always looking for new projects and simply loves to create. For Go on Shaw TV, I'm Fallon Wagner.